Storytelling. Dawn on I-40. A North Star freight trailer glides through an inspection with spotless logs and a calm driver. Then, an odd weld line leads to a concealed bay. 270 kilos of cocaine stacked for balance like a legitimate shipment. That one seam changed the investigation. Agents mapped 300 vehicles, repeating windows and transfer points that matched normal business hours. The pattern revealed a hierarchy that never touched the drugs, just schedules and approvals. 18 months later, iron current hit every control point at once. Stay as we trace the seam that unraveled a nationwide system. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. How do you move ton loads of narcotics through 11 states without a single siren lighting up the mirror? You make the operation look so normal that it blends into the commute. Clean logs, audited manifests, daylight drops, a company logo that matches the invoice and the decal on the trailer. Forklifts chirp in the yard, dock doors roll open at 8 a.m., and drivers hand over paperwork that checks out line by line. Everything on the surface mirrors the furniture run listed on the bill of lading. The weight matches the route. The time window fits the delivery queue. The truck rolls past a scale house like every other box on the interstate. The first clue didn't come from a dramatic chase. It came from an odd weld line on a trailer running I-40 and a driver who stayed unbothered while inspectors worked the tape measure. His story matched his documents. His logs matched his mileage. His demeanor didn't fit a panicked courier guarding a one-off stash. It matched someone who expected to clear, because clearing was the routine. When inspectors looked closer, the trailer told a different story. Suspension sat just a shade heavier than the listed load. The inside wall rang dull where it should have sounded hollow. Behind that wall, a bay sat engineered for reliability. Insulated panels kept temperatures steady so packaging wouldn't off-gas or sweat under heat. Vibration damping muted rattles that trained ears listened for at checkpoints. The weight sat distributed along the axles so scales read like a normal furniture load. Access hid under interior skins, with panel seams that landed on factory welds and latch points tucked under molded trim. Nothing screamed secret. It whispered manufactured. These design choices match common concealment seen across sophisticated smuggling. False bulkheads that create a second skin, belly boxes built into undercarriage cavities, and pneumatic latches that release only with the right pressure combination. They survive random DOT checks because they mimic commercial construction and rely on predictable inspector behavior. If a compartment looks like a service panel and lives where a service panel should live, it buys time. Time is what the network needs to move volume in daylight. Scale that approach and the picture sharpens. Around 300 vehicles on rotation. Roughly 60 drivers who know the routes by calendar, not by contraband. Nearly 20 warehouses clocking in at standard hours with scanners, clipboards, and supervisors in safety vests. On the street, freight can look chaotic. In this frame, it moves with corporate order, intake, staging, dispatch, and returns. The cover is not a disguise. It is the workflow itself. Trust made it run. Clean safety ratings lower scrutiny. Passing routine inspections creates a paper trail that calms gatekeepers. Predictable routes echo legitimate freight cycles, so a truck leaving at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday looks like last Tuesday and the one before that. When a schedule never surprises, people stop looking for surprises. Investigators shifted their lens from packages to patterns. It wasn't the single trailer that stood out, it was the repetition. The same loading windows across distant hubs, transfers that mirrored each other 2 time zones apart. The same waypoints appearing week after week. Movement, not mass, became the signal. A schedule can hide a load once. A system has to hide it every time. The seam on I-40 turned into a map legend. It reframed the scope from a lucky catch to a managed network designed to pass as commerce by behaving exactly like commerce. That's why the weak point wasn't the compartment buried behind a wall. It was the desk where the calendar lived, the terminal where the dispatch code was stamped, and the hand that set the next 8 a.m. dock time. When routine is the camouflage, the person who writes routine becomes the lever. Why watch for 18 months? Because the network didn't reveal itself in a single shipment. It spoke in rhythm. Agents needed to learn the beat. They built a timeline of routes that repeated like a commuter train. Loads left on the same days, hit the same interstates, and pulled into docks that opened and closed with office hours. Loading windows synchronized across regions, with lift gates dropping at 8:15 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and 3:45 p.m. Transfer points lined up with shift changes, so a pallet could move without drawing overtime or attention. The tempo made the trucks look compliant because the movement looked like payroll. Every time investigators nudged the system, the response came back calm. A truck failed to appear at a rendezvous. No panic, no frantic calls. Another tractor slid into its slot 30 minutes later, and the route kept time. A warehouse changed hands on paper 1 week, and the freight drifted to a sister site 2 exits down without breaking cadence. Those moves signaled redundancy and a centralized hand that directed traffic from afar. The people at the top managed clocks and lanes, not packages. They could pivot in an hour and still meet the afternoon window. Inside that structure lived a hierarchy that read like a carrier's playbook. Approvals keyed to route numbers. Dispatch calendars that stacked drivers, tractors, and bay assignments with efficiency targets by quarter. Miss a window twice and a route lost priority. Hit a sequence 5 runs in a row and it gained mileage. Leaders didn't touch contraband. They adjusted timing and coverage, then let the schedule do the moving. Think of air traffic control for freight, slots, approvals, alternates, except the cargo didn't want attention. What mattered wasn't volume, it was control. A network that decides where, when, and how can move less per load and still outrun enforcement. Control points, dispatch terminals, route approvals, and timing codes turned basic logistics into a shield. Optimize for daylight dock times, match way station patterns, and batch movements to office hours, and the world treats you like any other carrier. The more ordinary the calendar looks, the safer the cargo rides. One route told the story cleanly. A tractor left a warehouse in the plains before dawn, crossed 3 states, and hit 3 different docks at the same minute window, 9:20 a.m., on consecutive weeks. Different shippers on paper, same timing down to the minute. On each approval, the same dispatcher ID authorized the slot, even though the warehouses sat hundreds of miles apart and used different logos. That ID stitched distant hubs together and turned them into one corridor with a single metronome. Repetition did the hiding, but it also created the aim point. The schedule hardened into a signature. The more they ran on time, the more the line of travel became visible. Predictable windows let agents post up without chasing taillights. Repeating transfer points gave them anchor spots to watch crews swap trailers and reset hours of service logs. So the investigation shifted. Agents tagged offices instead of bumpers. They mapped server rooms, logins, and the handful of people who assigned timing codes across regions.